this video, we're going to use the auto track node first. We're also going to use the masks of the auto track in order to cover areas that we don't want to get tracked. Also, we're going to use the failure threshold in order to set up the tracker sensitivity. So let's go into the video and see how to do that. But now it's time for us to go into the tracking. So I'm going into the tracking, and the first thing we're going to do is we're going to try to use the auto track. One of the areas of concerns in the footage is this area where right in the center of the lens we have a little bit of artifacts that happen due to the light falling off on those bricks. And what we can do is we can activate the mask, and now we can use an ellipse tool and just cover that specific area. And I'm going to modify the area on which it sits because I want to make sure that it doesn't cover areas that might have potential trackers. Since I am on frame 34, I'll be able to use the mask tracking system in order to try to track this specific area that I'm not interested in automatically. So I'm going to track backwards, and then I'm going to move back to frame 34 and track forward. And the mask seems to be sticking to that area pretty well. So now let's track this forward. You might find yourself in cases in which the mask starts to shift and slide away from the area it's supposed to cover, and then you're going to have to add some keyframes manually. So now we can go back to the auto track attributes by clicking back on the mask button, and now we can click on the auto track. So let's click on the auto track. We're going to stop the video here, and we'll be right back once the footage is being tracked. Before we do anything else, it is imperative and most important to clean up your trackers. One of the ways to clean up a tracker is to look at the length. It seems that the majority of the trackers are staying at the length of the footage, which is 81 frames. But there are smaller trackers or short trackers that we can inspect and see if they're doing anything funny. For example, this tracker here, which is tracker 56. You just zoom in and we can see that it is stayed true to that feature, but it is a bit shaky. And we can see that by the magnifying glass of the tracking window. When you inspect your trackers, it is also very important to look at the score. The score tells you how strong the tracker is. In other words, it will determine if the tracker is getting weak or not. If the score was going down and it was getting close to the failure threshold, then we can say that the tracker is getting weak and we might need to retrack it. But in this case, this tracker here seems to be doing a good job. Now, at one point, it disappears. Another way to clean up these trackers is just to zoom out from your footage, and you can also click on the Fit Clip to Windows, and just scrub through the timeline and take a closer look at the trackers. For example, look at this tracker right here. This one goes berserk, goes out of control. So I'm going to take the marquee tool, select this tracker, and just get rid of it. So go ahead, scrub through the footage and see if you can see any other trackers that might cause some issues. Here's another one right here. Look at this spike. So I still have the marquee tool working, selecting this tracker and get rid of it. Remember that the 2D tracking is the main culprit in a bad camera solution. If you don't fix your trackers or they don't do what they're supposed to do, then you're up for some trouble. So we saw how to set up the failure threshold on the auto track, and we also saw how to use the tracking method within the mask properties. Next, we're going to take the user track and we're going to add our own trackers that are going to be added to the information that already exists in the auto track.